Obviously, we watched that game today, and Deshaun made a lot of nice plays and good decisions. So I think it's good, for him to have that experience against Florida State. We made a lot of plays in that game. Obviously, didn't make enough of them to win the game, but I think he'll have. Like all of our guys, when we watch the video, we're running. They're doing the same things on defense as they did last year. We're doing a lot of the same things on offense. So we're very familiar with them. I think the big message for our guys, if you look at our offense, and especially maybe some of the numbers that our guys in the last 4 or 5 years have put up at Clemson, we've accomplished a lot of records and all those type of things. And so our message to our offense, going back to January, let's accomplish some things that maybe the other offenses haven't accomplished, and that's winning some of these championships and having being more consistent throughout the year. And so that's really been the focus. But we've got obviously a lot of confidence in Deshaun, and I think it'll be fun.
Jeff, is that message to stay on point? Do you have to remind the guys a little bit more, because this obviously is big week Tuesday, the rankings come out. It's Florida State. They could determine a big part of where you guys head.
Yeah, well, I'll have a lot of those notes written down, but I think once Coach Sweeney gets done with them during the team meeting, I can cross off about half of the notes that I have on that, because he'll do a really good job of doing that. But that's and Coach Sweeney, he told them at the beginning of the year, as we continue to climb, there's going to be more exposure and more noise and more distractions, but we just got to stay focused and stay committed to that. And I just, more than anything, obviously I like where we are athletically at a lot of the positions and the skills and talents and all that, but we've had a lot of that here in the last 4 or 5 years. There's just something special about the chemistry, the mental makeup of the guys in that room that really they've done so far up to this point. They've done a great job of staying focused on that week, and that'll be the big message this week. But yeah, I absolutely, with the first polls and all that coming out Tuesday, there'll be a little bit more buzz, but I think we just got to stay committed to what we've been talking about all year long.
Would you be surprised if you were ranked number 1 in that first week?
To be honest, with a newborn at home, all I've been doing outside of what I've been doing here at Clemson is when I go home, I really haven't watched a lot of TV, and so it's just one of those years. It's gone by really fast, and really haven't had a lot of time to think about a lot of those things, and that's probably a good thing because we've been so busy. And I think, to be honest, it's been good for our offense that each week. Last week going into that game, North Carolina State was the number 3 defense in the country, and it just seems like every week that we had a big challenge in front of us that took all of our attention. And so I have no idea how it'll all match up. I think the confidence that we have is that we control our own destiny, and if we go out and execute in the remaining games, that we feel very confident that we'll be in the top 4. And outside of that, the rest of it is just fun stuff to talk about, write articles about, and kind of if and what happens and all that kind of stuff. But for us, this is a time for us just to keep our head down and keep working and not really look up at the big picture quite yet. It's still too early.
If it does happen though, Jeff, tomorrow night, having a 1 next to the name Clemson, I know it's all about the rest of the year, but would there not be a sort of satisfaction for this program and its history to reach that?
Yeah, I think it'll be something to go, man, hey, that's pretty cool. Look at where we are right now. Now, we're not going to be anywhere close if we don't go take care of business Saturday. So, it's not a deal where we're saying, hey, don't watch TV on Tuesday and don't look at the internet all week. It's one of those things that, hey, okay, all right, that's pretty neat. That's where we are now. Now let's go to work. And, I think that comes with maturity. And I think the fact that we've been, we haven't been up maybe to number 1 if we get there, but we've been undefeated twice, I believe, in the last 5 years, kind of this time of year. And so I think as coaches and as players, it's a little bit different when you've kind of been through that. And and Coach Sweeney's done a good job of reminding our players. I believe 2011 started off 8-0 and then maybe won 2 of the last 6 or something like that. Is that right?
Yep.
And so, it's neat to see where we are, but ultimately the goals and everything that we have, there's a lot left. And Coach Sweeney's done a good job of really breaking down our goals, and our next goal is to win the division, and get a great opportunity to clinch the division, against the team that really has controlled the division the last 4 or 5 years. And so that's really where all of our focus is. But our guys wouldn't be human if they didn't look at that and say, hey, that's pretty neat. That's where we are. And but I don't think we can look at it and get distracted, and that's not going to help us in our execution on Saturday. So that's the big thing.
Is it almost convenient that with all this hubbub, you have a team in Florida State that you and all the players know have been the team to go through?
Yeah, I think it probably is better with all of this going on to have a team that our guys, have a lot of respect for, and and again, kind of going back to what have we not accomplished on offense the last 4 or 5 years. We haven't played well enough to beat Florida State, and they're one of our obviously conference rivals, and so that'll be the next challenge for our guys, is kind of getting over that hump and playing well enough to do that. And so I think our guys will be very excited to play on Saturday.
You mentioned Sweat and Ramsey. Is there anywhere else, any level or any area on their defense that just really jumps out at you when you turn on the film?
I mean, to be honest, you don't really see a position of weakness, up front. They've got some big bodies like they normally do inside that are tough to move. DeMarcus Walker's a guy we know very well, recruited since he was in the 10th grade. He's playing well for Florida State. I'm sure they'll get Terrence Smith back, number 24. He's been out for a couple weeks, and sounds like he'll be back. And Reggie Northrup, number 5 from First Coast. We know those guys well. They're very good players. Really impressed with the freshman, number 3, safety. He's going to be a special player. He's kind of come on the scene last few weeks after some injuries, but he can run. And both corners on the outside are very good players, and be some good matchups. And the good news is we faced some good guys in the secondary, so our guys have had some experience against those. But I think Ramsey's as good as there is in the country, and I'm sure he'll be a top pick one of these days.
Is there any kind of built-in advantage when they've got so many guys that y'all are familiar with from previous?
Yeah, not really. I think we're familiar with them. They're familiar with us. Obviously the same thing we had going down to Miami. With some of our better players are from the state of Florida, so they knew coming to Clemson they were going to have a chance to play Florida State every year, and so it's an exciting game for those guys. But bigger than all of that, we want to win our division, have a chance to go to the ACC championship game, and so in order to do that, you got to go through Florida State, and we're just fortunate they're coming to our place Saturday, and we had that opportunity.
Saturday we'll
2
see
years
2
ago, I was going to say 2 years ago, a lot of your older guys were here, and remember, will you guys counsel them against thinking payback or revenge or anything, or will you let them ride with that and just the memory of what happened here a couple years ago?
Yeah, I think speaking offensively, we've got 5 O-linemen. None of them started last year, more or less 2 years ago. Deshaun wasn't here. He was probably in the stands, at least for the first half. And then, a lot of these young guys, a receiver, 5 of the 7 are all freshmen or sophomore. And so I think as coaches, we remember it. As players, some of them were probably, like I said, watching the game. But, I don't think it's something, I'm sure it'll get brought up at some point, but I don't think it's anything that we're going to use as motivation. I think if anything, last year, we felt like we did enough to win the game and just didn't finish it. And we need to learn to finish it against a good team like them. But definitely, I think as coaches, I think we have a longer memory, and I think sometimes it's refreshing for the players. For them, they have a short memory and they just go out there and play. And sometimes, just like myself last week, going, oh no, we got to go play at Raleigh. I've been there several times, and I look out there across the room, and our guys aren't really worried about going to Raleigh because they haven't really been there and experienced the 2011 and those different years. So, you know, these guys have a short memory, and our job is really put all our focus. I mean, our message all year long has been, it's about us. Now, you can't have that message unless you're good enough. You know, if you're at a place that you're not good enough, it's not really all about you. You got to have the other team not play as well, and you got to play your best. But I feel like we're at a point as a program where it's about our execution. And Coach Sweeney said that many times. If we execute, there's not many teams that we play, you know, that are going to beat us if we execute at a high level. And I think our guys have bought into that. And you know, there'll be a lot of different storylines, a lot of different things going on. And our biggest thing is, let's stay committed to what's gotten us to this point, and stay committed to the details, and as players and coaches.
Saturday we'll see the two best running backs in the league. What has allowed Wayne Gallman to ascend to that level of a back?
Well, I'd say number one is his work ethic. Wayne takes a lot of pride in his job. You know, he's really had to work at it because he did not play. You know, he was not a one-back running back in high school. He was more of a wing back and a little bit different type of offense. So he's had to really learn and go through that process, and he's done the work. And then secondly, I'd say Tony Elliott's done an excellent job of coaching him and really teaching him. And, you know, just to have a guy like Coach Elliott in that room with him every day for the last year and a half, you know, you can just see Wayne's, you know, game going to the next level. But he's just a violent runner. You know, I know they do stats for everything. I'd be really interested to see what the stats are as far as his yards after that initial contact. I mean, he's a guy that typically doesn't get tackled by the first guy there in the hole, and he makes a lot of things right. But really pleased where he is, and I think he's getting better each week, and I think he'll continue. I don't think he's reached his prime quite yet. I think he's still got more to go.